Hi everyone, this is Brian Gundy from For Goodness Snakes, and I thought I'd switch gears with you guys a little bit. Most of you know that I put my number out, my phone number out there, and my email address for you guys to, if you're struggling with anything and you need questions answered, I always say, hey, bring it on, and I'll do what I can to help. So I thought, rather than to be reactive with my answers, I thought I'd sort of accumulate all of the questions that I get and kind of categorize them into maybe 3 or 4 different categories. So we're going to talk a little bit today about probe location, feeding in or outside of their cage. We're also going to talk about temp gun versus thermometers. We're going to talk about back heat versus belly heat, and then we're going to talk about humidity. So let the class begin. So the first thing we're going to talk about is probe location. And a lot of you are struggling with your animals being burned. And I'm concerned not only for you guys, but for your snakes. So it's real simple. I know it seems that it should be simple, but for some reason, and before I begin, I've got to tell you guys that any answers that I have for your questions have all been learned through the mistakes that I've made. I have made more mistakes than anybody I've ever met, by far. I could tell you horror story on top of horror story on top of horror story of things that have happened to me in the past 20, 25 years that have brought me to this point in time. So, probe location. The probe must, at all times, keyword, all times, be making intimate contact with the heat source, whether it's heat pad, heat mat, or heat tape. I use heat tape, whether it's 11-inch flex watt or 3-inch flex watt. If the probe is a ½ inch away or more, it is a ½ inch too far from the heat source. It has to be making intimate contact. It's that simple. It has to be making intimate contact always. Okay? So if you have any questions about that, bring it on. Next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is feeding inside the cage or outside the cage. A lot of you that are buying your animals from pet shops are probably hearing from the people you're buying from that you must feed your snakes outside of their cages. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't know why, but it is. Do not feed your ball pythons, especially ball pythons, outside of their cage. If you take a ball python outside of his cage to feed it, you're going to increase the probability of that snake not eating at all. Ball pythons, their feeding response is kind of problematic to begin with. And the last thing we need to do is to be taking a snake from its home, its cave basically, and putting it into another cave that it has no idea. The smells are different, everything's different about it, and expecting that animal to immediately eat. It's just not, you're gonna have problems, okay? So feed your snakes in their cages. There isn't a professional breeder in the country that takes their snakes out of their cage and put them somewhere else to feed them. No one does it. The only people that do it are those that are getting information from pet shops. And remember, the people that are working in the pet shops may or may not even own their own reptiles. So feed your animals in their cages. Here's a quick story. I was visiting a friend that owns a local pet shop, and this is a year or so ago, and this guy came in. He was a customer of mine, and he had bought a couple snakes, a couple ball pythons from me, and he told me that one of them was doing great and the other one wasn't eating. And I said, well, and these were subadults that I had sold to him, so I knew that they had been eating, 6, 8, 10 months or so. And he told me, yeah, the one snake, we take it out of its cage and we put it on the coffee table, and it eats great on the coffee table. I'm going, what? So, and then he goes, yeah, but we take the other snake and put it into another container, it won't eat. I go, well, time out. I said, why are you doing that? And he said, well, it's because that's what I'm hearing on that's what I've been told by everybody I talk to. That's what you read online. It's all of that information's out there, and that's what we're supposed to do. I go, no. Don't do it. Feed your snake in its cage. And the guy looks at me and his eyes are rolling around like, why, what are you talking about? This is contradictory to anything he's ever heard. And I understand that, I get that. But the information that he's getting is wrong. Feed your animals in his cage. So anyway, he's rolling his eyes and he's going, okay. I go, look, just humor me. What can you lose? What can, you know? So a few days later, he calls me up and he goes, Brian, I can't believe it. He said the snake not only ate one rat in its cage, it ate two. And I'm going, excellent. That's what I wanted to hear. So please, feed your animals in their cages. Don't take them out of the cages. Can you imagine how much time it would take someone like me or a bigger breeder? I just got a couple hundred snakes here. What about Barchek or Wilbanks or McCurley or those guys? They have thousands of snakes. Can you imagine how many cages and containers they'd have to have and how many employees they'd have to have just to feed their snakes? If you're doing it, in my opinion, stop it. Don't ever do it again. Feed your snakes in their cages. Okay, let's see. Temp gun versus thermometer. Throw the thermometer away. Don't ever use the thermometer again. It's old school. Temp guns are fantastic. I don't go anywhere without this. You can buy them at AutoZone, Kragen's, O'Reilly, whatever auto store you can in your area. Cost anywhere from $25, $35. They're fantastic. I can tell you within seconds exactly the temperature that everything is at in this room. Within seconds with this. I don't need a thermometer. I don't own a thermometer. Okay? This is what you need. Probe location. If the probe location is right, then the temperature should be okay. All right. Let's see. Back heat versus belly heat. Back heat, no. Belly heat, yes. Back heat is just not effective. The animals need belly heat to help with digestion, and it's a much more effective way to keep the animals warm. You start using back heat, especially in a home situation where the ambient temperature is typically pretty low, you're probably going to have some problems with respiratory infection. And in fact, I've had friends of mine within the Bay Area here that have called me up and had me come over to their house to inspect their situation, and they've got respiratory infection going on all over the place. They're using back heat. Don't do it. Back heat is wrong. Belly heat is right. All right? I don't mean to be so blunt. I'm just trying to kind of move things along in this video so it's not so long and boring for you guys. Humidity. I don't do anything to increase it. I don't have a humidifier. I don't have anything that even checks the humidity. I don't even think about humidity. And I'm sure some of you guys are rolling your eyes going, what the heck are you talking about? Because I hear people all the time saying, oh yeah, you got to have a humidifier. You've got to have this level of humidity. I don't. And, my only concern during is whether or not the snake is going to shed well, or the only time I'm concerned about humidity is during shedding or incubation. And just to kind of give you an idea of the types of sheds that I've been getting, these are the sheds that I save for the reptile birthday parties that I do. And as you can see, we have plenty to give to the children. I have no problems with shedding. And I do not add humidity. I do not ever even concern myself. That the thought never enters my mind. I have everything on newspaper. Not only am I I have no interest in humidity, I'm actually at 180 degrees from the humidity. I want this environment to be dry. I know through the experience that I've had as working as a vet tech for 9 years, way back in the day, that humidity is your enemy. It's not your friend. Humidity, there are two things that are needed for bacteria, protozoa, fungus. The list goes on, the bad stuff. There are two things that are needed for them to thrive. Heat and humidity. Well, we know we already have the heat side of things. If you add humidity, you're going to add to the ability for these bad things to grow. It's like raising your snakes in a petri dish. Who would want to do that? I don't know. But I know that some people do. In my opinion, it's a mistake. Dry is the way to